You ought to know. Well, now you ought to know by now. Ooh, you ought to know. Well, now you ought to know by now.
All right, here we are. So I have the illustrious Dr. Andrew Kaufman with me tonight. Andy, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Topher. Thank you.
It's so good to see you again. We had a great time out in New York. I really, the highlight of my time out there was to hang with you. Those hours that we got off camera and stuff was awesome.
Yeah, I enjoyed that as well, Topher. Sometimes those conferences can be a bit stressful,
Yeah,
but I'm sure not the elementals gathering because that's going to be pure bliss.
yeah. The Elementals gathering, it's gonna be a lot of fun because I'm fielding all the questions from the people about like doing a festival out in a hayfield, and it's it's fun. It's fun telling people what the situation is actually there. So I just want to say hello to some people in the chat. We got people filtering in. Usually I just do like just a few minutes of you know gobbledygook just to get people to roll in and everything like that. Could you tell people where they can find your material? I have it all in the show notes, but just verbally tell people exactly where they can find you.
Yeah, well, my website is the best place, because there are some things I can't really talk about on platforms like YouTube. So, andrewkaufmanmd.com is definitely where you'll get the most serious info. But definitely check out my YouTube channel, my Instagram, Facebook, and X accounts. And for those of you who may be on more privacy oriented platforms, I'm on Odyssey and Rumble as well. And it's all under Dr. Andrew Kaufman.
That's wonderful. And the PMA that I spoke, your PMA that I spoke to, what is that?
What, oh my, that's not a PMA,
Oh,
but
okay.
you're talking about that's the True Living Fellowship.
Yes.
So my membership community. I mean, my whole business is definitely organized in a private way,
Yes.
but that's that's a platform where we come together to like work on actually living based on the truth. So like, we learn all these things out there about how the world really works, but this is a community where we could support each other, like actually taking action on those things, making decisions for our family, for
Hmm.
our career, finances, etc. And so we have a very active peer community and then a lot of, advocacy and support, including, of course, a lot of people are primarily concerned about health issues, and that's a huge part of being able to, live your own life. You have to be able to take care of your own health and be in good health. Like you won't be, building dome structures if
That's
you're laid up, right?
that's totally correct. Like that's so apropos for what I went through this year of falling off a ladder during my dome build, and that was like breaking some ribs. That wasn't
Oh,
that,
well,
that wasn't
lucky it's
fun.
only ribs.
I know. I have this. They called me crash test dummy gardener in college because I got hit by a drunk driver, and I just broke some ribs in that, and that's it. And so my teammates had a good fun calling me crash test dummy gardener. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Well, your ribs must be like a magnet.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It was so funny too because I dabble in celestics and astrology, and one of my students was there. I was actually teaching him the way of doing ferro cement on the dome. And when I fell and broke my rib, like when I fell, the rib had like a hairline fracture. It didn't crack till that night until I rolled on it. But I was on the ground and I was moaning, and he had known my whole backstory. And he goes, "Oh my God, that's your Saturn return of your rib injury." And I started laughing so hard, and I was so mad because if you've
Oh,
ever
I'm
had,
sure that was painful
oh,
laughter.
it's like sneezing with like broken ribs is the worst, and like laughing with, but I had to give him props. Like he got me. Like that was totally hilarious what he said. So that was wonderful. So we got our people coming in. We have Stella all the way from Australia. My main man Frankie from New Zealand. We got Tippy Canoe Herbs, who's also going to be speaking at the Elemental Festival.
Oh, nice.
Yes, he's in the chat right now. So Chip Wellington's. Oh, this is awesome. So let's go ahead and get everything started. You're part of my little eggs live stream. I'm always, trying to make an acronym out of everything. So I thought elementals gathering guest speakers, eggs. We're all good eggs. So I just want to get people to get to know you, and because they're only going to get like a few hours with you at the gathering. So just kind of like to prime the pump a little bit and have people like kind of get your spiel and kind of understand where you're coming from with things. And I'm gonna prime the pump right now with is essentially saying like to me, out of my canvassing of the truther space, you are by far the most grounded person that I've listened to. You represent like the ground element to me, like when I think of like what the different speakers represent, because you are so methodical, and you're always doing this like evidence-based way of looking at things, and it's just to me it's like absolutely essential to have that level of groundedness to be well in the landscape that we're in.
Well, Topher, part of that at least, I mean, because even when I was a little kid and I was watching Star Trek, like you'd never guess, I identified with Spock, right? Because
Yes.
of the logic.
Hmm.
So there's definitely a part of me like that, but also, since I was a child, I dreamed of being a doctor, and then when I was actually practicing medicine, right, in that system, there was a point when I realized it's like I've been duped.
Right.
Like I've been taught to do all these things that actually make people worse in the end rather than better. And, I'm like, I made a promise to myself that I was never going to get involved with that again. So I don't, speak favorably of anything, especially health related, unless there is a clear, track record that this is really going to be helpful for people. I don't jump on the bandwagon of, the latest craze or, some cool device that seems like a miracle,
Hmm.
because those are often, pan out to be empty promises. And, I can't allow myself to lead anyone astray,
Right.
because and possibly that's why some people at least trust what I say, because, everything is vetted very carefully. And, it's not like everything has to have, scientific evidence or published evidence, but it's got to be enough weight and it's got to make enough sense that it's real and not, just fantasy.
Hmm. Well, that makes a lot of sense. I've just gotten into the market of actually selling products. I've always been like deriving my income from my essentially my day jobs of building and massage therapy, and then like the whole internet side of things is just like my foray into you know intellectual musings essentially. So now that I actually am selling a product and I know like how much it has to go into like the actual like going into every single little thing about it, I can really I really admire your fastidiousness with how like you're so methodical in your process. For one point, like go through the process of what you went through with your shungite, because your excuse me, I called it the wrong thing. Um,
Yes, Shilajit.
Shilajit. Your Shilajit's the best that I've had. So what was your process like? Go through like how you went through to get the product to where it is now.
Well, there's definitely a lot involved. I originally learned about this from Dr. Jennifer Daniels, and
Mm-hmm.
who I know is a friend of yours as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I tried it and I experienced the benefits, and I looked at the research, and that's how I chose. What it is it provides the trace minerals, right? The metals that we need in very tiny amounts, and there's tons of research out there from agriculture as well as from various health studies showing we don't really get these in our diet because of the way the modern food system is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so it's like a necessary thing. In fact, it's the really the only substance that, in my opinion, is something a supplement someone should take on an ongoing basis. Everything else is only while you're doing a healing or to perhaps correct something, and is time limited. But this, because we can't have any other way to get these minerals.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went to try and find a source, because the most traditional place this comes from is India and in the Himalayas, but it's been used in other regions of the world, especially in Russia. They have a different name for it there. They call it mumio.
Mm.
And so I started, you know, um, finding products like on various websites like Amazon and other places where they're selling them. And then went to the websites of the companies for different brands to see if any of them, were distributors or if they knew of distributors. And then I came up with several email addresses and phone numbers. And mostly they were actually in Russia. But when I reached out to them, for me, the most important thing is what is the quality and the source of your material. So I asked for, testing results like for heavy metals and for elemental analysis. I, asked for a certificate of authenticity and additional details to open up the conversation. And what I got back was, how much you want to buy? So it was like doing a drug deal in the hood.
That's
It's
that's
like, hey
very
man,
Russian, by the
how
way.
much you want? It's like, and so practically everyone I reached out to cold, I got this kind of response or I got no response. And then
Hmm.
I found someone in the United States who was selling this product and is Phoenix Aurelius.
Nice.
And he starts telling me about the problems in the supply chain for Shilajit, that in Russia and India, the main places where there is a supply available, that they use child labor,
Hmm.
for example. That they also, many of the mountains where they harvest it, they have other mining operations like for rare earth metals and such. And those miners in some countries just dump their waste right into the stream that runs down the mountain. And traditionally, Shilajit is purified on the mountain and with the water from the streams.
Hmm.
So if that water has mercury in it
Terrible.
or plastic compounds or whatever, then it's going to contaminate the Shilajit. And then I found out that aside from that accidental contamination, that there also is a practice of adding adulterants like fillers to it to, basically increase their profit, just like, they do with cocaine and heroin.
Right.
And they could add things like sawdust
Hmm.
to it and whatnot. I'm not sure what other materials, but this is, you can actually find documentation of these practices. So I felt like I was, in a dangerous world, and that it was going to be very, very difficult. And for a while, I actually found a supply that was harvested in the Rocky Mountains, and and it was a good material, especially very low heavy metals, but not quite as many of the minerals as the shilajit from Russia and India. But it still was effective, and I was selling this for a couple of years, and then right when I was about to place a big order for Christmas sale, suddenly I was told that it's no longer available. That the company that was harvesting it, just decided to close up shop. And, I was left with very little time to find another source. And I basically was on the internet and the phone around the clock for a couple of weeks, trying desperately, because I knew, if I lose, anyone who sells physical products knows that, normally a huge portion of your annual sales comes at the holiday time.
Yes.
That's, when people spend money. So if I missed that opportunity, I would be faced with having to fire people because I couldn't pay them.
Right.
And so it was a bit scary, but thank God I found really the optimal situation ultimately in the end, which is a distributor in the United States who has direct connections to the source, no middlemen involved. Until obviously the distributor is a middleman for me, but for him, he gets the product directly from the village that harvests it.
Wonderful.
And it was a very high quality product. And when I asked for all the testing and stuff, I got actually more than I asked for.
Beautiful.
So and this distributor did additional testing and also sent me a sample that I could try for myself, to investigate the aroma, the texture, the consistency, and how it felt to take it. And I was, just felt extremely fortunate that I found this supply. And, that's kind of the process that I went to. But, I could have made deals and bought it from anybody. But I would have got, stuff that I couldn't guarantee the quality. It could be, I see a lot of people who sell shilajit say that it's low in heavy metals or say that it has, so many minerals in it, but they never actually publish the results.
Right.
To show that. And I know from being inside the industry that there are some companies that are covering up that they have low quality material that has high amounts of lead and arsenic in it.
Yeah.
Right? So, I want to steer as far away from that kind of thing as possible, because whatever I'm going to sell is the same exact thing that I take, that I give to my kids, and my other family members and friends.
Yeah, it's amazing thing in my field of making biochar. I never researched anybody else. I never looked into what other people are actually doing in that field. I knew for a long time that the water filtration market was lying. Like you use the word, they use adulterants. They'll say they have a carbon filter. But then when you look at their carbon filters, they have like 10% carbon and 90% plastic that's leaching into the water. Like all these different
Right.
things.
Well, there was that whole scandal with Berkey
Right.
too. I don't know if you heard about that.
I didn't. I was more on the Brita tip. The Brita one was the one because most people that use topsoil.
Right. Well, now a Brita filter is not really useful anyway, though.
Right, but I'm just saying, like when I was talking to clients of mine and just getting my mom to use some sort of water filtration, she was opting for the easiest thing
Right.
possible. Yeah, I was like, Mom, they're not even using carbon. They're not even it. No. So it's kind of fun now in my competition when I'm looking at what they're doing. they make this claim, they'll use a word as a descriptor, but that descriptor is only describing like 5 to 12% of their product. All the rest of it is an adulterant. And
Yes.
it's nuts what people can get away with.
No, no, you're absolutely right. You know, that's why caveat emptor is such an important principle,
Yes.
especially when it comes to, things like food and health supplies, things that are going to, go internal to your body.
So just on a personal level, you use your Shilajit. Are there any other supplements that you find like absolutely essential?
No, as I said, like in terms of taking something on an ongoing basis, there's nothing else that's
Hmm.
needed. And also, and this I think is really important from an alchemical perspective. When you get a bottle of, so and so, such and such vitamin or such and such mineral, those are not natural. Those are made in a manufacturing plant, through chemical
Hmm.
synthesis. They're not the same. I mean, we can talk about whether those things are even in your body at all, but let's just assume that they are. They are not the same as what you get from food.
Right.
So I don't subscribe to that philosophy. Like, so if you have weak joints, for example, I would
Hmm.
say that you need extra collagen. You're probably at least part of the reason is that your body is deficient in collagen, and because we don't eat those parts of the animal in our culture,
Right.
so it's extremely common. But I wouldn't say go get powdered collagen.
Right.
I would say right now, even though that is probably natural, or at least it's made from a natural source. It's not a like synthetic protein because it would be more expensive to manufacture it that way. But I would say, go eat some chicken wings or some beef tendon or bone broth
Hmm.
because that's how we're supposed to get nutrition,
Yes.
right, from food. So I now in terms of emergencies, trauma, for healing protocols, that's a different story because there are a variety of natural materials that you would use to support your body's healing, and that's for a limited time only.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm trying to explain that to people also with a like a wonderful, I guess you would say, similarity to what you're describing with getting nutrition from food. It's the same way with fertilizer for the soil or for the like trying to explain to these farmers that have been brought up on NPK and then the Roundup, the glyphosates and all the chemical inputs. It's just like no, 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 no. Like you literally have 100% organic ranches that are grass feeding. They're grass finishing all their cows and their horses. You literally have mountains of manure there. You have the wood pulp industry extraordinary over here that can convert this into these carbon amendments. Like there is like the full spectrum whole food for your land, and a lot of people just can't, it just doesn't land for them because that's not their conditioning. They've been conditioned to get the chemicals.
It's kind of funny, Topher, because people are aware of the rainforest, right?
Hmm.
The most lush place, right, in terms of the density of plants filled with color, right? I mean,
Hmm.
also animals. Do you think that anybody sprayed fertilizer on those rainforests to
No.
make it grow like that? No, right? But what, like you said, what did fertilize that land? Well, it's the manure and the dung.
Yeah.
That's the nutrients, right, in the
Hmm.
plants that then get eaten, and then the way they get recycled back in is through the waste,
Yes.
and also from decomposing
Hmm.
flesh, right? So that all the animals and plants that die, the microorganisms and the like the mycelial network has plays a big part of this,
Hmm.
reduces that back into the soil. This is the exact reason why you need shilajit or something similar, because when the food that we grow that we eat, we don't put the manure back. We take it, well, we don't put the food back for sure, right?
Hmm.
Because we move it to a remote area and then eat it there. and then our manure doesn't go back into the land where that food was grown,
Hmm.
right? It goes into the sewage system.
Right.
And, I don't even know what happens to it after that. Do any of these nutrients make it even into the effluent water from the sewage treatment plant, or are they in the sludge? I'm not sure. But they definitely don't get back to that farm. So the soil just is stripped of the natural fortifications, and the only way they can get plants to grow is by using the chemical fertilizers.
Yes. Yes. And a lot of these places, I'm dealing with a few massive, I guess you would call them repurposing of farmland in Iowa and Nebraska, where essentially because they've been using these chemicals as the main way to drive their production, there's no soil left. And because there's no soil left, there's no way to actually filter these chemicals now into the water table. So now, there's like massive areas of Iowa where you can't drink the water because of all the nitrate intrusion. And I saw,
Well, I would say this is pervasive. I mean, it may be higher there than the average, but we have agriculture spread throughout, right?
mhm,
And um, even if the soil is reasonably intact, these things still end up in the water table and then in people's wells and drinking water.
yeah, yeah, it was nuts. And growing up in Florida, before I left Florida, I think it was 2005, where they had a drought for many years. And, and I remember reading the county that I lived in, Palm Beach County. They're like, "Oh yeah, we're just gonna start dumping the effluents from the sewers into the aquifer to raise the overall volume. Don't worry, that stuff sinks." And I was just like, I, and then like you look at the level of depression, you look at all the weird things, all the like the Florida man stuff that occurs, everything south of Lake Okeechobee. And I think it has a lot to do with, you have so many people on pharmaceuticals, so many people that are on chemical dependence. You have all these golf courses and yards that use glyphosate ad infinitum. And you have this whole industry of chemical, and your water table is only 3 feet underneath you. And there's no way they can scrub all that stuff out of the water. And that's why people in South Florida are crazy.
Yeah, well, so this is why I recommend that you distill or use reverse osmosis for your drinking water.
Hmm.
Unless you know that you're getting spring water and you fully evaluated it,
Right.
that it doesn't contain these things, because even though they're in small amounts, we consume a lot of water, and over time that builds up and can be a huge problem.
Yeah. And it's in all your food. For example, when I lived in India, where I lived in India was like I guess it was like the smelting region of India, like they smelted all this metal. So you literally could not eat a vegetable there and not have it taste like metal, because all the metal was in the water, and the water then ended up being in the vegetables.
Wow. Well, I hope it was iron.
Dude, I was like, man, India was like one of those things. It's like I totally got caught up in the new age and got pulled there. And when I was there, I was like, I got duped. This place isn't for me. I like clean air, clean water, good food. This no thank you.
Really, no good food there?
Well, it was tasty, but it was like it's sort of like, the saying, like you can put icing on a shit cake. Like you can make things.
So, like, tasty, but you would have some after effects in the lavatory. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and then they didn't even have lavatories. Like where I was in southern India is like everything was like I would make these jokes because I'm kind of like a comical person. Like I'd be like, okay, I'm leaving for the ashram. Let me, pass over Quagmire Lane and, go through, a Dunghill Central. Like it was literally, there was dead things and shit everywhere. Like everywhere. It was like,
That's how I like to keep my home.
hey, probiotics. Yeah, like no, it was not. and there was so much pollution, air pollution. I don't do well with air pollution because they had a lot of two cycle engines. So two cycle engines are where they, this is for the audience, like that's where they
It's
put,
like your lawnmower.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's always an exhaust in your face, and if you're gonna get anywhere, you're in a motor rickshaw. And I missed my $1 billion opportunity of making like the best video game in the world. It would be like the scariest video game in the world. And it's called Indian Rickshaw Driver, where like you're in a rickshaw and they got like all like the glittery stuff and the things hanging and Ganesha and all this stuff, and you're literally facing death every second that you're in the rickshaw by like different things going across like it, and like them racing
Or,
each other.
the wheel might just fall off at any time.
How people like, because over there were so many people, they didn't care that people would die all the time. Like in that culture, it was just normal to see dead people on the street, or dead things on the street. They
You
cared.
saying they didn't pick up dead bodies?
There was a couple, like they called them the untouchables. Like there were a few untouchables that in my time there that they were dead. Like they were there and they were an untouchable. So it took a while. It wasn't like you had like an ambulance service come and wheel them away or anything. It was very inhumane. And I was there in 2004 when the Banda Aceh earthquake happened and created
Hmm.
that tsunami that hit Pondicherry. And like that side of India, the southern east coast of India, they had like 500,000 people die. And the town of Pondicherry was essentially like wiped off the map. And that was only about 50 kilometers, which is like 30 miles from where we were. And we would go there because that was the only place that was decent to eat. So like once a week we'd go get like some supplies because it was like an old French colony there. No one cared that like 50,000 people were gone. Like no one. Like it was just like another day, like just going. And we had people reaching out
Like
from,
there were no vigils and memorials and things like that.
no, it gave me a whole different perspective, like on like how, like the whole over dramatization of things that occur in certain instances. Like we had US media outlets reaching out to us and being like, what happened? And I'm like, no one cares here. Like it's not a big deal. Like 500,000 people die. It's just like a drop in a bucket. It's like no big deal. Pondicherry was kind of interesting because there was a lot of French people. It was a French colony, but they had like different, little enclaves of decent food in French hotels there. But I mean, it was literally nobody was talking about it within a week.
Wow.
Yeah. It could have been like
Definitely
this.
culture shock.
It could have been like the super spiritual thing too of southern India. Like everybody wants to like act enlightened. So it could have been that, like, different. I wasn't like say in like the mainstream cut of like whatever Bollywood thing was going on there at the time.
Well, I would think the spiritual people would want to go there to help comfort and rebuild.
No, no, in that area it was much more like, oh, at least in the, because I was in like the Vedanta Advaita capital of India, which that's very like non-dualistic. Whatever happens is supposed to happen. That's sort of like the background vibe with what goes on there. Vi- I thought you were gonna say
You know,
something.
well, I mean, cultures can be so different
Yes.
from each other, and not that I wanted to go here, but it's sort of this immigration, um, operation that's been going on is it's known as geographic or warfare.
Yes.
And it's purposely like taking cultures with conflicting values and practices and putting them, in an enclosed space, essentially.
Hmm. Yeah. Are you seeing a lot of that where you live in the East Coast?
Oh, no, no, no. I think it's really mostly in Europe.
Yes. Yeah. That's kind of odd that you say that because when I was over in Europe, that's when they opened the floodgates from Algeria into Europe, and I was really amazed by it because I had been down in Spain building, and in Spain they have this massive amount of investment from the Middle East. So you have hundreds of thousands of condominiums that have never been lived in. And so when all the immigration started to happen in 2014 and 2015, in my logical mind was like, oh, just throw them in all those condos right there. Like they just go across the Mediterranean, boom, you're right there in southern Spain. All the infrastructure, all those buildings are there. Hey, problem solved. No, shipping them all the way to Norway and Sweden and Germany and Belgium, and I was like, this makes no sense. I was still under some illusion that it wasn't a demographic warfare thing. I was thinking it was an actual
Right, right.
problem. Yeah.
So I'll tell you something about all of those buildings from foreign investors. A lot of those investors are actually doing that to launder drug money
Yeah.
as part of the international drug trade.
Hmm.
And so when the government is, this is the interesting part, right? So the government is paying those investors to lease those units to house the immigrants. And so they're essentially paying rent to international drug dealers.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes complete sense. I mean, I saw that where I lived in Central America. That was the big thing. Like we had so much oversight from the government because of the quote unquote money laundering thing. Like some of my contractor friends that did very high volume in multi million dollar mansions, they always had the government you know hanging over them, watching to see whether or not it was some sort of money washing operation.
Right. Well, the Caribbean is one, like, so that, there's only certain countries that have banking that allows, that essentially doesn't ask and doesn't tell.
Right.
Right. And one of them is near Costa Rica, which is Panama.
Hmm.
Of course, we know about the Cayman Islands, and, there are other centers in the Middle East and the Far East as well, but that's the one in this, hemisphere.
Hmm.
So it's not that surprising if, because the Panamanian account holders are then going to use, they're going to draw on funds from that bank to buy up real estate, and they might very well buy it in Costa Rica. So
Hmm.
it makes sense that they would be, looking out for that.
Yeah.
Because, out of all the countries in that area, Costa Rica is probably the wealthiest and the most, friendly to foreigners, or it's the safest anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one of the reasons why I chose it. Panama is a very interesting country. I would never ever tell anybody to ever live there. It's like a lower form of hell with
It was
all
pretty crazy during COVID, too.
ugh, the military there, like the military presence there. You can't go anywhere without seeing a machine gun. Like nowhere. It doesn't. You could go to the best restaurant or the lowest supermercado. There are men with machine guns that don't like.
Well, probably they have carbines, right? They're not necessarily fully automatic.
What's a carbines? Is a
Like
carbine?
like in like an AK-47 or an AR-15.
I don't know enough about guns to really speak on it, like in an educated way. You're probably
Well,
correct.
yeah, because fully automatic machine guns only have special applications. It's not like every soldier carries one,
Right.
and they're super expensive. So in Panama, they definitely can't afford that for every soldier. But they're those weapons are one, they're a lot more lethal than a pistol.
Definitely.
So, and they look very intimidating when you see them, in front of the local Walmart or whatever.
Hmm. And the flex there that I didn't ever like. I mean, the flex. It's a Central American country that uses the dollar, and so you had so many spooks that like ended up living there. Like the one general that I befriended in Central America lived in Panama, and it was just like like there were so many spooks down there. It was just out of this world. So let's talk a little bit about the Elementals Gathering. We are having, just for everybody in there, we have a good group of people in the chat now, about 50 people. The what we're doing is May 8th through 10th, we are having a festival in Mountain Grove, Missouri, where my main man here, Dr. Kaufman, will be speaking. We have an excellent guest list. I'm just going to go through the names real quick. We're going to have Eileen McCusick, Owen Benjamin, Matt Presti, Steve Young, Alex Zeck, Amy Hamilton, Dr. Marzel Arce, Chris Winters, Emily Moyer, Marty Leeds, my main man, Jorge Mesa, Adam Stevens, Moshe Daniel Block, Kyle Denton, and Chance Garton of the Universe podcast. He's emceeing the whole thing. And our lovely producer, Rebecca Steele, that we both got to hang out with in New York, will be there. And myself, I'll be speaking too and having a couple workshops on biochar. We decided to call it the Elementals Gathering, mainly from the notion of when you start to be able to work with the elemental energies in a very healthy and efficient way, and start to understand the qualitative aspect of those vital forces. Anybody that I know that has done that, their life has gotten better. And conversely, the people that haven't learned a little bit of the mastery of these forces, they seem to be in disarray. Like the level of coherence in their life and the level of actual, I guess you'd say, resilience or strength to move through the world in an effective way seems to be hindered. And so we wanted to focus our energy on having the speakers kind of give their whole, like, focus on a specific element or a couple elements that they felt more akin to, and then like drive home some points of mastery of how people can actually experience that elemental energy within their life. So that's what we're doing May 8th through the 10th. Our early bird.
Now,
Go ahead.
Topher, do you know about elemental astrology?
No, please tell me about it.
So, well, I mean, look, I'm not an expert on this, but one of the speakers who you mentioned, Steve Young, he just put out a lecture in the last couple of days, really talking about mostly the periodic table, but from a point of view of the elements. And it's very, very fascinating. I would highly recommend it. He's going to be great at the event. But one of the things he mentioned is that because, you know, the astrological signs themselves, right, we know are associated with elements. And there is a system that can give you a little bit more precise makeup. So, you know, if you're a water sign, for example, you might have the highest component of your, you know, essence being the water element, but you'll have the other three in various proportions as well. And so there's a way you can actually get this information. And, you know, as soon as he started talking about this, I knew right away what my dominant element was, and what the other ones, when they come out. So I thought it was really fascinating. It totally fits with what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm actually very well versed in that aspect. I would never have termed it elemental. But I get exactly that. Like, for example, I have a lot of Pisces in my chart, so that's mutable water. And so in Ayurvedic medicine and Ayurvedic massage, which was like my training, whenever we're working on somebody, their mind has, you know, elemental energies the way they presents, and then their body has elemental energies in the way that presents. And so when you touch somebody that has a lot of fire, like a lot of pitta in them, their skin will look a certain way. It will react a certain way to touch. Their hair will have certain qualities and characteristics. And it's the same way when it comes to the astrological things. Like if you have somebody that says is a Leo and has this crazy fire energy, and they're like, their sun is on Regulus, they're going to be the light or the sun of the room. You're going to feel their heat. And if you're a water element like I am, that's very annoying because water and fire make steam, and steam creates pressure, and the pressure is felt by the water element. So there's all these ways, especially in relationships, you can kind of see who you're going to get along with in a very, I guess you would say, first impression type of way, a lot by their by those elemental forces that are dominant for them at that time. Because one thing I focus on when I'm working with clients with this is that your chart is always changing and you're always going through transit. So when I work on somebody, they might identify with their birth sun sign, but the current transits that they're in have something else totally like dominating their
Right.
their
Well, we're not, unidimensional
exactly.
beings.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think we do though return to our roots. Like we may, go through a season or of our life where other aspects become more prominent, but I think we eventually repeat, back to those
It's like
other
it's
attributes.
like the salmon returning to where it was spawned. So
Right.
so tell me what your like I'm interested if you feel like sharing like what is your dominant element?
Well, it's Capricorn.
Nice. I would like I totally because Capricorns are the most capable. Like whenever you always want like your pro athlete to be a Capricorn because the
Oh,
Capri
really?
oh god yeah because it's the earth that's kind of cold. You know, Capricorn season is cold and it has like a cutthroat component to it. In very high level athletes and very high level performers, they need that Saturnian cold energy to kind of succeed because it doesn't shy away from competition. And that's the thing about the Capricorn. The Capricorn energy is so determined, and it's like, do you remember that saying from Star Trek to The Wrath of Khan, where Khan says to Kirk, he's like, vengeance is a dish best served cold.
Yes, totally.
That is
That's
like
the Ricardo Montalban, right?
exactly that is like Capricorn. Capricorn will wait in the weeds. It will just sit there and watch and wait and have the discipline to be quiet, to pounce right at the
So
right.
you're making me sound like a stalker there, Topher.
Well, what I'm saying is in competition, you need that level of determination. And that's why I said, I prefaced it with saying you want your pro athlete to be like that. Because the pro
Yeah,
athlete,
no, no. I get you. I get you. That it makes sense.
because you'll have the Leo athletes that are really good. Like Leos and Capricorns are really good athletes, but the Leo is more about fame. The Leo just wants to be seen. Whereas the Capricorn wants to get there because they're actually good. They want to get there because the fame doesn't even count to them. They want to be respected for how good they actually are. It's a different mind frame.
Yeah, no, I totally get that,
Yeah, yeah. So
actually.
that's awesome. I'd love to do your like to look at your chart because I look at it through a Rosicrucian lens. Like I look at it through an alchemical lens. I guess you could say the celestics that I do is actually it's real sky and it's done through the alchemical perspective of the Rosicrucians. And so it's a little bit. It's not like your horoscopes like are kind of to me they're a little bit lame. They don't really.
Well, I never really, look, I don't really pay attention to this in terms of my, personal guidance.
Mhm.
But there have been a couple of times when, people that are very knowledgeable,
Mhm.
like a couple of like Amanda Vollmer
Mhm.
did it one time for me,
Wonderful.
and I'm blanking on that Chiron Returns guy. I don't know why I can't think of his name. I just saw him at the Weston A. Price conference. Um, but when that happens, and actually my boss at the health department in New York City, when I did AIDS research, she did it for she forced me to do it. I didn't even want to. But she's like, sit down, come to my office, sit down. When were you born?
That's awesome.
It was hilarious. It was hilarious.
Did you know what her birthday was?
No, I don't know. I didn't even think that way at the time. I was just young, right out of college,
Hmm.
and you know, trying to do a good job. But all those times, you know, they always told me things that was totally rang true.
Hmm. Yeah. I find it to be absolutely an amazing science. Like, you know, in my family of doctors, I was like, it was nuts. My mother, it's such a weird exposure because my mother was in the regular medical field, but she did have my stars read, I think a week after I was born, and she had it recorded on an eight track. And so when I was 20, she played it for me on my birthday, and I was just like, how is this possible? Because this guy did a progression chart for me, and like he knew me better than my parents did a week after I was born. And it was just like one of those things. It's just like there has to be something there. Like I cannot deny the accuracy of what was shared. Like it was just it blew my mind. It was one of those like pivotal moments in life of being like, how is this even possible?
You know, it makes sense because it's the natural world.
Yes, absolutely.
And, you know, the same thing is true with plants, right? You can observe differences in how plants grow and your harvest, etc., if you pay attention to the natural cycles and, you know, plant it according to those,
Hmm.
right? This is when I learned about spagyric products, right, which is a way of using alchemical principles to transform a plant into a medicine. Uh, the plant and the different processes, right, the steps of transmutation have to be correlated with the natural cycles, like specifically the lunar cycle with certain things, especially.
Hmm. Yeah, it's an amazing process looking at the different alchemists that I've been exposed to. Their level of actual phenomenology, like actually having experimentation after experimentation after experimentation, to me is just it's just like construction in a way. Like in construction, you have to do what works, because if you don't do what works, the building fails, right? Well, a lot of the things in the alchemy that I've been exposed to is just like the level of sensitivity of how their observation skill sets are, and then understanding that they're part of the experiment, like actually understanding like, okay, if I'm doing this spagyric
Yeah.
concoction, or if I'm doing this reduction, I am within this whole like this the entirety of this experience. I am part of it. And to me that's just like, you know, what do they call that in science? They call that the observer effect or something like that.
Well, yeah, that there is, you know, with the double slit experiment, that term has been used, absolutely,
Yeah. And then like,
and that may be akin to what you're talking about.
yes, because like,
But you know, I mean, if you're, you know, making something medicinal and sacred, and you just had, you know, some knockdown, drag out fight, and you're all angry, and you know, you're gonna then put that energy into what you're making.
mhm,
So you have to have the discipline and the awareness, you know, to not go down that route. And you know, this may sound a little weird, right? That you could affect a physical thing, but just think about your interactions with people, when, or you know, think about that experience that we've all had where you're talking with a group, and maybe it's at a party or something like that, and everything's going like swimmingly, everyone's engaged, and then all of a sudden someone walks in the room with the wrong energy, and everything just goes silent.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we've all had that experience, and what's actually going on there. That individual didn't even interact directly with us, but whatever you're feeling when that happens is the same thing that's going to affect that alchemical process.
Definitely. Definitely. I my grandmother used to say, she said, whenever you go to a restaurant, there's two things you do. You go and go to the bathroom first, go check the bathrooms. If the bathrooms aren't clean, leave. And then she said the second thing you do is you look into the kitchen. And if the chef is angry, walk out. And and you know what? There's a lot of truth in that, because early in my life, when I was in the service industry, when the chef was in a bad mood, or the sous chef was going bad, whoever was on service, things just did not go right, and you didn't want to eat that food. And so, like, it was one of those things too. Like in the ayahuasca world that I was in, I would build these massive rocket mass heaters or rocket stoves for the people that would actually cook down the jagubi and the trachuna to actually make the ayahuasca brew. And they would not allow like anybody in this space that was like talking frivolously or wasn't like, singing very specific songs. They were emphatic that while the actual aya was being made, that you were not to like intrude in the space with anything that was less than holy in their eyes.
It's like one of the ancient wisdom that has simply been lost, or perhaps purged in our modern cultural experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think enough people have their grandmas cooking for them. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when grandma enjoyed cooking for me. I'd go over to grandma's house and the food always tasted better because she was actually looking forward to feeding me. You,
Yeah.
it's a different thing when the parent is all stressed out, or you're just getting some food from some corporation or whatever. There isn't the love that imbues the food, you know? And grandma could make like something that wasn't made of the perfect ingredients, but she loved me and she wanted to feed me. Like when you get offered food by somebody that wants to feed you, that is nourishment.
Well, it's definitely something I grew up with, because all the ladies, in the prior generations in my family were all about that.
Oh, that's
Like
wonderful.
if you were in their house, like they were giving you something to eat, or making you something to eat.
That's awesome. That is awesome. What is your cultural background, if you don't mind sharing?
Uh, New York, Eastern European Jewish family,
Hmm.
pretty much.
And what is the actual food fair? Like, what would that food fair look like?
Oh, I mean, it was the things you might imagine, like matzo ball soup,
Hmm.
potato
Schmaltz.
kugel.
Did you have the good
Well,
schmaltz?
schmaltz is just the chicken fat,
I know, but
so
did you
that
spread it
you
on?
know.
Did you spread it on your good bread? Like,
No, no, we had the chopped liver for that,
oh, okay, very good, very good.
and which had schmaltz in it. So you'd use this. I mean, I really only knew of the schmaltz as an ingredient, not as a condiment.
I
But
see.
you definitely put it in the chopped liver, although there's also already a lot of fat in that,
Hmm.
and caramelized onions. That's Jewish pate.
Yeah, yeah. So is that why your brain grew to the extent that it did? Because you were
I don't
getting.
know. My hat size is actually quite small, so it's I don't think it's volume. It's more how you use it, and if you interact with lots of people in our modern world, it's it's like they purposely don't use their brain power.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. A gentleman that was up from your neck of the woods, that an author that I loved when he was alive, was John Taylor Gatto. Are
Oh
you?
yeah, yeah. I'm a big fan of John Taylor Gatto.
Yeah.
I require my kids to read his books
Yes. Yes. And
for my homeschooled kids.
yes, that's perfect. His whole thing about the infantilization of the West, to me, I think is one of the biggest social engineering things that gets kind of passed over. People hear the word infantilization and it doesn't like land. And it speaks to like what you're talking about, people not using their brains, because it used to be 100 years ago you could have a open conversation and not get emotionally invested and angry at somebody if you disagreed with them. Like to be somebody that was well rounded was that you would actually have communications with people and like get differing viewpoints and argue it out and not take it home with you at the end of the day, you know? And they've kind of made people be feudal with everything and be like, oh, if I disagree with you, I'm cutting you out. You're gone. And that is an infantilization. That is like not allowing yourself to think, because if you hear something that challenges your paradigm, you take it as a threat instead of an opportunity.
You know, I was just got a comment recently on one of my YouTube videos. Really, it was like not a comment, it was like being berated by this individual. And it was because I used to have one opinion, and now my opinion is different on that topic.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, you know, another thing that it's related to what you're saying about because when you have a healthy debate, you're presenting arguments and information, but you're also taking in arguments and information.
Right.
And you might learn something you didn't know that might result in you changing your mind. I mean, the purpose of debate really is not, you know, it's not just to declare a winner or a loser. It's to try and pursue what is the truth of this subject that we're debating, because there is a truth to it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that means if you're open to that, then you also have to be willing to change your mind. And we wouldn't have gotten into this position talking about the things we do unless we were willing to change our mind about quite a number of things. And the problem we have now is that people are identify with their opinions.
Yes.
And I think for many of them, the opinion didn't even come from them in the first place.
Right.
They're just, you know, kind of glomming on to the grandiose other, you know, because Trump said it, so I'm aligned with Trump. He's the hero. It elevates me to his status, and don't ever, you know, I can't hear anything that contradicts it. Now, you know, I'm just giving Trump as an example, but this could play out in any, you know, infinite number of ways. And in this case, like, the person was basically irate with me because I had looked at new information and changed my mind about something, and now they agreed with me before, and now they don't agree with me. But there was no like, oh gosh, maybe you learned something really important and I should reconsider this topic. What's different? How come you changed your mind? You know, it wasn't like that. It was like, damn you for changing your mind and disagreeing with me. I'm writing you off, you know, forever because of that.
Yeah.
And
When you look at the whole infantilization thing is the externalization of authority. So when you put the authority on somebody, there's the two components that mess people up is the externalization of authority, and secondly is the need for consistent messaging. And that's a sign that children, like, you know, to have a child, you know, be healthy, you're giving them consistent messaging all the time so that they feel safe, right? But after a certain
yes.
point in time, you should become an adult and be able to handle if there's a change in opinion or if new information comes in. But the infantilization has gotten so deep into people that they treat that externalized authority as an idol. And false idolship is like the bane of our existence. Like people just lose their mind because they're like a little kid. You've stolen my whoopee. My whoopee says X is X. Now you're saying X is Y, and they lose their shit.
There was some YouTube channel that did an experiment like this in a college classroom. All right, where they had a ball that was half of it was black and half of it was white. And they did it very interestingly because they had a black student on the black side of the ball and a white student on the white side of the ball. But neither of them could see the other side, right? So the professor was asking them, what color is the ball? And one guy was saying, it's obviously black. And the other guy was saying, what are you talking about? It's white. Mm-hmm. And, they kind of played a trick on them, right? Because they didn't realize that they were only seeing part of the ball. Mm-hmm. They weren't seeing the other side of it, right? Like the other side of the moon that we never see. But so analyzing this, it represents the concrete operational stage of cognitive development, which occurs around 5 years old. Mm-hmm. So these college students have not progressed beyond that stage of reasoning.
Right.
Even though obviously they're much older than 5, right? And the next stage would be abstract. Mm-hmm. And so this is a concrete, empirical demonstration of what you're talking about, that our society is infantilized. And it's not because we're bad or inadequate. It's because of the systems that have, essentially programmed us to be that way. And, most saliently, as you drew on Taylor Gatto's piece, is the, compulsory schooling system.
We have Gnostic Academy. This is Brother Marty Leeds. He's going to be one of the guest speakers at our festival. He says, my whoopee is absolutely X. It is not Y. Stop trying to make my whoopee away. That's awesome, Marty. Thank you. It's, I loved John Taylor Gatto's humility, because especially those videos that he ended up doing with Richard Grove, where he was like sitting there, you could tell like he was like, obviously very Jesuit, completely well educated, very well versed, and he had this humility about him because he was like, you have this Prussian schooling system that's giving us this operant conditioning, telling us that we're just supposed to react to the authority. And then you have the authority structure blaming you for acting that way. And you could tell he was caught in the dynamic of those two worlds, of being like, because I've seen this with very wealthy people. It's like, I've been around very wealthy people and they hate poor people. I've never seen such vehemence in anybody, like blacks versus whites, athletes versus non-athletes, women versus men, like all the different ways that we're tried to be like, social engineered apart. I've never seen more like disgust in people than watching, wealthy people, especially nouveau riche wealthy people, which is a whole nother thing, looking at like the lower class. They're like, oh, they're like, oh, get those deplorables away from me, that type of thing. And it's just like the concept, like like I'm going to blame their situation wholly on them, like there was nothing fated, or there was nothing there. It was that whatever their life situation is as a total is only by their inputs. I've always found that to be
right.
Absurd.
Well, no, I mean, look, I agree with you that if you asked a lot of, now it depends how wealthy, right? Because if we're talking about elite level wealthy, this wouldn't be the case. But I think the level you're talking about, right? They would probably say, oh yeah, people are poor because they're lazy, right? Or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I think psychologically, they're afraid that they could end up like that again. and that's perhaps a more visceral part, of that response. But the truth is that, you know, very few of us could become wealthy unless we already start out as being wealthy.
Right.
The American dream, social mobility, and all that. It's a marketing campaign. It's not reality, and the rules that we're told to play by, right? Like, go to school, pay your taxes, save. All those things will guarantee you'll stay poor.
Yes.
The rest of your life.
Yeah. And then when you also look at like I chose my entrepreneurial start in life outside of the country. Well, I guess no. I guess when I was a little kid, I had like a lawn mowing business, so that doesn't really count. And then actually, no, my first company I had out of college. Never mind. I've been an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur, ever since I was 11 years old. I can't say I'm a good one. Oh, I'm a good one in the sense that I'm doing what I like and I make a living out of it. But like from a world perspective of generating X amount of profit and all that, that's never really been my focus. I'm getting a little bit more mature in that regard. Like, and I'm totally open to training in that regard also. But God, I forget my line of thought why I brought up the entrepreneurial thing. Oh, well, the whole thing is like you're saying like, oh, do this, go build the widget, save your money, pay your taxes, and shut up. You're absolutely right. Like there is no escape from the wheel, the wheel of the grind in that.
Well, it's not entirely true. Like you're not going to be able to reap the same level of benefits, as a Rockefeller. But it's so if you own a business, right? That is a way out,
Yeah.
right? Because ownership is the way that you can truly be wealthy, because what you own can generate revenue without being directly related to your work, right? Whereas a job, you only get paid for your work, your time.
Right.
So that means the more time you spend working, the more money you make, right? Ownership is not like that. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with savings. So if you, instead of saving, right, like just putting money in a savings account or in your, typical IRA or whatever, you buy assets that make money. Mm-hmm. Like investments, like real estate, for example, or invest in a business or other things like that, so that your money is making money for you without you doing anything. Like you be sleeping and money's coming in. Like this actually also kind of I learned from direct experience back when I was working in cancer medicine as a PA. The chairman of the department was just kind of casually talking, telling this story, about wealth. And he's like, real wealth is when you're making money when you're not working. Mm-hmm. And within medical specialties, there's only one specialty I know of where you can do this, and it's oncology. Mm-hmm. Because you can be on the golf course and your patients are in your office sitting in chairs getting chemotherapy, and your nurse is doing all the work, and you're getting paid by selling the chemo drugs and a fee for the nurse administering them, and you're playing golf or out to lunch or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's why, and some oncologists who maximize this, make just crazy money. Mm-hmm. Because of that, right? Now, that's not an ethical way to do it, giving poison to a bunch of people, but the system protects them, right? They have essentially a monopolistic ability to provide that service because of their being board certified in oncology. Mm-hmm. And that is the same kind of, thing that really wealthy families do. Like in industries, we think that regulation of industry is supposed to be to protect us, the consumer, right? The regular people. And maybe it started out that way, but that's not what it is at all now. What it is now is that a really big company, they basically are in control of the regulations because it's either their past or their future employees that are running that regulatory agency. And they are also, making major campaign contributions to whatever politicians are going to be involved with that agency. And then the rules essentially favor them and are a barrier to competition. Like if they, already have, are a huge company and have all this infrastructure to put in scrubbers for their smokestacks and, do all this testing. But a competitor would have to now, because those things would be required, have to first buy those things before they even made $1 of profit or revenue. And they can't enter the market. The cost is too high. So that company that, all their employees are in the regulatory agency and they paid off the politicians, they now have a monopoly. And that's really the way our economy works, and the way that wealthy people keep their wealth and pass it intergenerationally, and we're just stuck on the bottom in perpetuity.
Do you have a outlook on sort of where North America is heading in the next 10 years?
Yes, but it's not very optimistic, Topher.
No, I'm a realist. I've seen I mean, living in Europe and living abroad, I know what's happened. I've seen this story before. Like I've been pre-framed. I know the socialist, like the whole thing that's coming. But I wanted your opinion on it. Like I wanted to know where you're at with things.
Yeah, well, I mean, the things that I was thinking of don't just involve North America, they involve really the entire world. But, and, it's going to, I don't know, there's various stages of this already going on, but here's one big clue. Because now, in the news cycle, we hear a lot about data centers.
Right.
Right. Even one of the guys I interviewed, Casey, the car guy, has talked a lot about this. There have been, a couple of quasi victories. I think it was Tucson, Arizona, that actually, voted against. I think it was actually Amazon's data center, but against selling them the land. Of course, they went and got a deal with a small town just outside of Tucson, so they're still going to build it. But think about this whole thing we have with AI, right? You have the government, right? I think it's called Project Warp. No, that Warp Speed was for the vaccine, but they've got some other name for it.
The Space
where
Force?
No, the AI investment, right? This was at the beginning of Trump's current term. He, had this big press conference. It's when they said they were going to use AI to make cancer vaccines.
Oh God.
Right, but obviously that's just a PR, and so the government had this major investment in AI. We have the AI companies like trading like crazy on the stock market, right, going through the roof, and then we have these data centers, right, which are these megalithic building projects that must cost crazy money. And of course, they're going to use up all the electricity and all the water wherever they're built. And then, so all these people are putting crazy money into AI, but where is AI making any money? It's not making any money anywhere.
Nope.
Right? So the Chat GPT and Claude or whatever, AIs that people use to do their work or their school for them, right? Which is definitely ruining our intellect and creativity and humanity. That's not making any money. So how are they getting all the money to build all these things and do all this? Well, it's because the real purpose of all this AI is for mass surveillance.
Yes.
And that's what's coming, in the next so many years. And it'll be very similar to what they already have in China.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you would really appreciate my last podcast with Sabrina Wallace. Are you familiar with Sabrina Wallace? She
I know
runs.
I've definitely heard her name. I'm not quite placing what she talks about right now.
She's an incredible. She would never use the term whistleblower. I'm not saying that she claims she's a whistleblower. She was basically involved in a bunch of telecom projects, like 25 years ago, and came up in the systems engineering side of things. And she's showing like how much of all the wireless data networks, how they're linking to IOTA, how they're linking to essentially the Internet of Bodies, the Internet of Thoughts. So what they're doing is essentially everything, like the reason why they keep making all these more and more and more advanced is they're making them advanced in a way to always be reading our biometrics. So if you've ever listened to Alison McDowell talk about the way they're going to securitize the debt in the future, they're going to securitize it through biometrics. In fact, you see the opt-ins with everything now, with whether it's a thumbprint or a retina scan or a face scan.
Are you saying that the CBDC that's coming will be hypothecated off like biometric health parameters rather, because our current fiat currency system, right, which has really been in effect in earnest since 1933, allegedly the value of the debt notes, right, the Federal Reserve notes, which is a debt instrument, mm-hmm. is hypothecated on the future labor of the people of the United States.
Right.
So in this new system, it will be hypothecated on some biometric
yes.
parameter that is supposed to relate it to health or some other. Like what's productive about it? Like, is it if we're healthier, then we're going to create more wealth in the future, and that's.
They're switching the tokenization of the economy is based around. They call them it's such a funny term. It just means gambling, but they call it something like what is it called? Hypothetical futures or something. I'm forgetting the technical term that they use, but it's gambling. The tokenization of everything. And so
well, look, any derivative securities currently are gambling.
Exactly.
I mean, just look at the silver market right now. Like, one of the reasons why silver price has been so suppressed is because of the paper market essentially there's no silver there, there's just paper.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And so, yeah, I love the coat check analogy. It's like you have like 1,000 people that went and, put their coats into the coat check, and there was only one ticket that they kept repeating and distributing them out there.
Yeah. So so the coat check, but if let's say that people started placing bets, right? Is it going to be a man's coat or a woman's coat? Like, and for each coat check, and so someone was, making money off these wagers because they're charging a transaction fee every time someone bets on a coat ticket. Mm-hmm. But then it was so lucrative that decided to create a bunch of coat tickets where there was no coat.
Right.
And that worked for a while until somebody called the bluff and realized there were no coats and he was just keeping all the money. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's what's happening with silver right now, is that all the paper is just a bet. In the future, is silver going to go up in price or down in price? Mm-hmm. Right. And that's your short and long position. And then that would come to maturity because it was at, so many days in the future, like 90 days or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then once it reaches maturity, then you can, either cash it out or roll it over. And if you cash it out, you're supposed to be able to actually get that silver. But the thing is that people didn't cash it out. They just kept rolling it over. It's mostly institutional investors that are doing this, and they just want to keep earning revenue, so they keep betting over and over again, and never, call it in and say, okay, I'll just take my silver. But at some point, right, which is now, people starting to realize that there actually is no silver there.
Right.
And if they've been betting the short position that it's going to go down, they're losing. So they might want to just decide to, cash in and take their silver and, cut their losses.
Yes.
But if they all did that at the same time, guess what? There'd be no silver for everybody. And so the whole system, falls apart at some point. And this is the same thing that's happening with the currency overall, right? And that's why we have such a degree of inflation that's going on. And, it could really get out of hand, because even though the future labor of the citizens is real, they just keep creating more notes without having more citizens to do more labor in the future. So, it's also the same thing. It's not real. It's just paper and a belief. And then once the belief goes away, then the whole thing comes crashing down.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's the system that Allison McDowell and then my last guest, Sabrina, have been actually showing how they're actually implementing that tokenization, because they're always, the only way like these shysters actually continue to make money is they make a new market. So they're always having to make new markets. And then when an old market goes defunct, they just pivot and go to the new market. So the pivot off the current fiat dollar is towards these tokens, or these, you use the term CBDC, other cryptocurrencies and all of that.
Yeah, stable coins,
Yeah.
I think they are more specifically referred to, these ones.
That pivot, on the consumer side is on the, she was talking about, Allison McDowell is a little bit more eloquent in describing this than I am. The way I'm, ad-libbing, the way I see it, it's very much like the commodities market is very much rigged. Most markets are rigged. In the commodities market, they'll go, okay, orange juice, our long position on orange juice is X, and then they'll go ahead and do some cloud seeding over Florida where the oranges are grown, and now, their position is ruined, and somebody made a lot of money, somebody loses a lot of money, right? The way Allison McDowell was putting it with how they're going to be using the biometrics is, our different bodily functions become a commodity that's traded. And then you'll have people that will have longs and shorts on different biometrics. And just like they did in the real estate market, where they'll put a lot of bad debt together, a lot of bad loans together in a tranche and sell it, or they'll put a lot of quote unquote good loans together in a tranche and they'll sell that at like an A+ rating. They're going to be doing that with human biometrics. And just like
but it doesn't actually generate any value. Like when they put, let's talk about like mortgage-backed securities, right? Because what you're describing is just like that.
Yes.
So they, take a pool of promissory notes from a mortgage, and they put them together, into a trust, and then people can buy, so that it gets paid for. So the bank actually sells those notes to the fund that operates this. They're put into a trust, and then they sell shares of the value of that trust. And so people basically put in their money and then, are becoming lenders, sort of, like in the aftermarket. But then the people who originally signed, the promise to pay, they make their payment every month, or they default, or they miss payments, right? Mm-hmm. But when the payments are made, then that money, the profit from, so it goes to pay back the principal, but then the interest gets distributed to the shareholders of that trust in a dividend. And that's why they invest in these things, right? But so they're kind of betting that the people are going to pay their mortgage payments. And if they do, then they get a dividend. If the people default on them, then they can lose money,
Right.
right? That they don't get the dividend and the value of their shares goes down,
Right.
right? So that's how they're hypothecating. But here's what is different, that the money is going to come in every month because there's a payment due every month. So there's real value in that pool of notes that people bought shares of. Whereas in someone's biometric measurements, there's no revenue, there's no money.
Yeah, it's much more like gambling, like on a sports team. It's
But that's not a security. There's got to be something with a monetary value to be a security.
I I
Like it's
I don't know. Like I said, Allison McDowell is much more. I'm just like
because
trying.
you can already bet on that now. You could bet on a boxing match, right?
Right.
That's essentially the same thing,
Hmm.
right? You just say the punch is a biometric function,
Yes.
the strength of the punch.
Right. Right. No, the way it's been presented to me, and the way my mind interprets it is like, oh, they're just going to be gambling. It's going to be a lot like the movie Rat Race. I don't know if you ever saw that John Cleese, Cuba Gooding Jr. movie. I think it was like 25 years ago. But you have these people in the back room that are betting. They're watching everything that the people that are in the rat race are doing, but the people in the rat race don't know that they're watching every little thing. They're just given an objective, and they think, oh, if I get this objective, then I win. But the whole real story is all the people that are watching them try to get that objective and making all these bets. And it's such a hilarious movie. And so that's the way my mind interpreted Alison McDowell's material. And the way Sabrina Wallace is talking about it is they are going to do, like, with the way that they're going to monitor, essentially our biometrics all the time. We have a semi-lacrum digital being. All of us do. Like there's a digital, Dr. Andy Kaufman. That being in and of itself has a whole market of different, and I might be using the wrong term when I say securities. You're much more formal than I am. There's a value on that digital simulacrum being because that being has a value with how accurately it predicts what you, the living being, Andy Kaufman, is doing.
I don't know. This seems too abstract for me because there's an obvious way to use this biometric and surveillance data, which is use it to manipulate people.
Yes.
To do what you want, and
Exactly.
if they do what you want, that includes like spending money to enrich you.
Right.
So that I understand, but that doesn't involve any betting.
No,
That
that's
involves,
one side.
making rules and enforcing them.
That's literally the gross side. That's like the most concretized gross side of it. You're absolutely correct. This is like the I guess you would say the play that's being had especially in this old population, because I think the average age in the United States is 51.
But whoever's betting is only going to take money from the other people betting in that system, whereas what I'm talking about is they're taking your money.
So check
the
this.
ones who are being surveilled.
So this is where my study in like the gambling markets. It was actually my final paper at Michigan State University was talking about the extraction of wealth it was the extraction of discretionary income from riverboat gambling. And so in that model, the model is there to actually pull the money out of the market. It's literally there so that the people that are involved in all these different transactions, whatever their transaction system is doing, it's actually pulling out of the market into a different market.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't get it.
I'll send you some of Alison McDowell's work.
Well, I don't know. When I've watched her stuff, I didn't understand it either
Okay.
before. So
If I find a piece of her work that is grounded in the earth element, as my Capricorn friend is, I will send it your way. Because there is a bunch of it that's extremely obtuse and, like, way out there.
well, look,
Um,
I've read position papers from the Federal Reserve
mhm.
and from the Bank of International Settlements. So it's no fun reading anything like that, and they're using a different language, right?
Right.
So you have to, I mean, it's just like law, except that banking definitions can even be different from legal ones.
Hmm.
So it could be tricky to understand it, but essentially, what it seems that all these international groups in the banking sector want, for sure, is programmable digital currency.
Yes.
And by programmable, meaning, they can control where it's spent. So I mean, imagine if a dollar bill. Obviously, it's a piece of paper, right? So you could bring it anywhere and give
Hmm.
it to anyone to exchange. But imagine if you needed like a red dollar bill for fast food and a blue dollar bill, for clothing, and a orange dollar bill for entertainment, and you couldn't cross spend them. So you
Right.
had so much money allocated for this and so much for that and so much for that, or maybe you didn't have any of one kind, so you couldn't pay for any entertainment with this paycheck.
Hmm.
So the currency could actually be programmed to only be spent a certain way. That's one way it could be programmed. So that, for example, let's say that you bought too many ice cream shakes one week, and then in your paycheck you couldn't use it to buy junk food
Hmm.
for the next week, right? And that they'd say it's for your own health, but it's not your free choice to have bad health if you want anymore, right? So you could be controlled in that way. Another way it could be controlled is it could be turned off completely.
Hmm.
Another way is that it could have a negative interest rate,
Right.
meaning that you have $100 in your account now, but it's minus 10% interest. So tomorrow it's going to be $90,
Hmm.
and the day after that, right, it'll be $81, and it'll go down by 10% every day. So obviously that incentivizes you to spend it immediately
Yep.
before it goes away, right? So that's another way that you could be programmed. And of course, I'm sure you could think of other ways, but it'll be a mechanism to completely control you, and that's what they want to implement. And of course, in order to implement that, they need to have digital ID
Right.
for you.
Right. Yeah, I saw this implementation when I lived in Costa Rica. Like, I saw the whole system get retrofitted during COVID's, and it was like, that's why my
What
wife.
system are you talking about? I haven't heard. Like, I know people who live in Costa Rica. They didn't mention.
So they're like, our baby was born 2020, and what was occurring there was their system of, I guess you would say, their healthcare. Like, if you live in that country, you have to be part of their healthcare system, specifically their injection model. And so they've shifted everything over to like this digital. I'm forgetting the.
Well, what if you don't want to obtain health care from them?
Well, they don't care when it comes to kids. They would literally had like people coming up and driving up to houses with three people. You had a policeman, you had the woman that was administering, the nurse that was administering the shot, and a social worker. And if the child wasn't current with the vaccinations, they would take the kid.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why we hightailed it out of there. And the only way people got out of it, and I have to be very careful how I say this because I don't want to like incriminate people. Let's just say people got very crafty with their digital uh, IDs. Okay. But the problem is with all that stuff, when you start to get into, let's say, maybe you accidentally, allegedly misrepresented yourself with a digital ID, they still have you on record for consenting to it, which it becomes very problematic. So there they link that to the bank accounts. So like if you don't do what the state says and say a lot of the stuff that they say to do, you don't want to do, you don't have access to your bank account. You don't have access to your money.
Wow, I didn't know this was like that in Costa Rica.
Yeah, like so many gringos there are getting just absolutely like they go down there. I mean, I went down there 20 years ago, so I feel like I got the best out of my experience there before they
It
did.
makes me not even want to go there on vacation, Topher.
I wouldn't. I closed all my businesses last year there, and like I literally I'm done with it. It's like my with India. I'm done with India. I never need to go back. But like the what's occurring there, because so much of the UNESCO and the UN Agenda 21 is being pushed there, they literally put in a criminal president, like the president that's in there now. He was arrested and was like in jail. He fled the country for like 15 years, and then they put him back in office when Agenda 21 came through. I think, excuse me, before COVID came through. That president just pushed, like he's like, yes, we'll take all the World Economic Forum money, we'll take all of the Internet Bank of International Settlements money, we'll take it all. We'll be the first country to say kids under 5 years old should get the COVID shot. Like he said yes to all of it. And so now if you're doing any type of investing into Costa Rica and everything like that, everything has to flow through corporations that you make. But the craziest thing about those corporations now, all those corporations, the taxes and the fees and everything are so exorbitant, and they go up every year. They don't have like a set amount per year that those things go up. Like it's just a fleecing. Like the days of international, let's say legal international investment is in having it be really profitable, unless like you're like, massively greasing the wheels in our like very huge corporation investment. But I'm saying like for the average person that used to have like their
Well, you mean if you want to invest in a business in Costa Rica, you mean?
well, I'm just saying most people when they invest in a business, there's only two business plans down there. I would say people who invest in Costa Rica are usually buying property, and when they buy property, they buy transportation also. So to start a restaurant there is a non-starter. To start a spiritual retreat center is a non-starter. The big investment that's going
You
on
mean just because of the taxes?
because of the taxes, and also because everybody else, your competition is like out of this world. Everybody has the same business plan down there. Because everybody goes down there, they think, oh my God, this is so beautiful. I have to share this with the world. But everybody does the same thing. It's actually quite comical. Like as a contractor that was down there for 15 years, it was like I heard the same thing on repeat every time. It was just like, I want to build a spiritual retreat center. It's like, why don't you just buy the one that's right down the street? There's one that's complete. Like you don't have to go through the rigmarole. Like there's one over there. Oh, you need that? Oh, it's right there. Like
Are they all out of business or
it's always like
up for sale?
you'll appreciate this term. We had this term. We called them trustafarians. So you had these people, these usually young idealist people that come from some sort of wealth. They have some sort of spiritual beauty experience. They're still young enough to be super idealistic, and they want to share that. And they have money, but they don't really have like real money. They have enough money.
Right.
They have enough money to get started, let's say. but they're also dumb enough to not really gauge competition, to think it all the way through or whatever. So in my little cut of like southern Costa Rica where I was, like there was like, when I left, like 20 ayahuasca retreat centers. Like there was like, God knows how many spas I worked at. Like there was just like, it was all the same thing. And they all had the same pitch. You'd go to their websites, it was all the same thing. And then the outside investment, which was mainly Israeli investment, they were going there because they could like hedge. They're very good at hedging with their, I guess you would say, foresight is the best way I could say that politically correctly. And those investments were usually larger real estate investments, but then they were setting up like all this offshore gambling and the offshore data centers, and how do we get rid of like when there were so many, like some of those businesses were just like so antithetical to the vibe down there, right? So there wasn't really like, there's not enough people, there's not enough volume of traffic in that space to like actually warrant real investment. So there isn't like real investment. So it's normally just like, your everyday. And then you have like your Midwestern retiree person that's lived, say in Iowa all their life. And they're like, oh, I'm going to take my $250,000 and live in Central America for the rest of my life. I can live there for free. Like, in their mind's eye, it's for free, but
Yeah, dirt cheap.
but every year it gets more and more expensive. Like, eating there at a restaurant now is like 300-400% higher than it was when I moved there. And the food quality's tanked, like everything's tanked. So to me, it's just like, I think the luster on that pearl has, been buffed off. Like it's not what
Well, look, there's always been, the grass is greener
right.
on the other side kind of attitude, and it's just not.
Right. Well, that's why we came back to
It's
the
just
States.
different. It's just different. It's not. It might be Bermuda grass and you have fescue, but it's no greener.
So speaking of green grass, we're going to be in a hayfield. We're going to be at the elementals gathering together. Can you give people a little tidbit? Because for me, like this whole thing is about what we're talking about with the advent of all this, BS that's going on. I've focused my life on resiliency. I've focused my life on like, how can I be in any situation and be anti-fragile? How can I build strong relationships? How can I be a pillar in my community by being innovative, being productive, those types of things. And so my knowledge of the elemental energies has really helped me with that. I'd like, if you're willing to share just like a little bit of what you think you're going to talk about, I'd love to end our talk on that tonight.
Well, I'm going to be talking about the minerals.
Nice.
So, people don't realize how pervasive they are in our body and what they're used for because, nobody really knows these things. Even doctors don't really know these things. They're just kind of given a list and then, not talking about it. But just think about hemoglobin for a second because, we all have heard of hemoglobin. We know what red blood cells are, right? That they carry the oxygen. Well, hemoglobin can't work without a metal, right? Iron. And we all know that we need iron in our bodies, right? We know that iron deficiency is bad. We know it's in the blood. And it's, at least in the mainstream, it's said that it's the part of the hemoglobin that sticks to the oxygen and transports it around. Well, it turns out that most of the proteins in our body work that way. They just don't all work with iron. There are other ones besides hemoglobin in the blood that works with iron, like the enzymes in the mitochondria, for example. Some of them need iron. But there's, a whole bunch of other metals, some of which you might not have even heard of, like molybdenum and manganese, boron. And boron is a a metalloid, but all of these minerals also work with our proteins, and we don't get them in our diet, in the amounts we need. And our body can even, by the way, if we don't have them, they could substitute toxic metals like lead. Like lead can substitute for zinc. And zinc is one of the ones that we're very low in as a population. So I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to add a little bit of an alchemical element bent to it to sort of talk not just about the metals like clinically, but talk about, you know, what they are, what their properties are with respect to the elements, and then how that makes sense in your body. And I think it'll be, you know, very fascinating that you never really thought about salts and metals this way.
Oh, I'm excited about that because I love batteries, and I love, yeah, for a very long time I would recondition batteries and the electrolytes in batteries for solar systems. So this is like right up my alley.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. We're going on close to 2 hours here. I think we should wrap it
Yeah,
up.
I think it's my bedtime, Topher.
I know. I have to apologize for the people that were coming to us right now because I did advertise this incorrectly for 3 days. That's part of my numbers dyslexia, but it's
Well, that's all right. They can rewind it and see the beginning.
yeah, people really love the chat. Like our chat is usually off the hook with this. So just one more time, Dr. Kaufman, where can people find your work, and if there's anything that you would like to advertise or promote right now, go ahead and hit it.
Yeah, well, AndrewKaufmanMD.com is the place where you can find. I'll put in a plug for, of course, my Medicamentum Authentica Shilajit. We'll be having an amazing bargain for a Valentine's Day sale. And as Topher said, you know, it's very, very high quality, highly vetted Shilajit. And you know that this can, you know, help with, of course, libido, but more importantly, fertility. Increases testosterone. It helps with metabolic function like diabetes and such, and many, many other things, because these metalloproteins are, you know, in every function of your body involves at least some of them. So sometimes it's surprising how people respond to it. You know, things that they didn't think would improve just, you know, suddenly get better, stuff that they've been dealing with sometimes for, you know, decades. And so it's definitely worth it to take advantage of that. And if you're, you know, really like what we've been talking about and want to be with a community, you know, virtually, that's going on all the time, of course, definitely go to the Elemental Gatherings event so that we can do these things in person. But please do check out the True Living Fellowship. It's very, very inexpensive for what you get. You get quite a lot, and you can see a lot of support and a lot of community about living in the truth. So those are the things I would definitely drive people to.
I have to say, like, you're one of the people I look up to online, and now that I know you in person, like, just, and your product is awesome, by the way. So just so everybody can know out there, like, I've tested now, God, in this last 2 years, maybe it's going on 3 years, I've tested 6 different Shilajits. And I have a lot of different people that are like, try this, try this, try this, try this. And like, yours is by far the best. It was yours, and then Matt Roski's Cultivate Elevates. His was a good quality, but yours has a higher density to it. So like, yours goes further, if that makes any sense. Like, if you were to take the same amount, yours has more punch. And
I asked Dr. Arce Maricel also, like she did with the biochar, if she would be interested in photographing it under the microscope to see the microzymas. So I'm excited to see that because I'm sure it's going to be teeming with them.
Yeah, and I'm excited to send you our micronized biochar. I just picked some up yesterday,
Yeah, yeah.
and
That does sound interesting.
because we have a process I didn't know this because I've been just doing all this stuff in my backyard essentially, but apparently there's a wrong way to grind biochar, and that's the way I'd been doing it. And so my factory, they showed me yesterday the system that we're using, and it's much more involved than what I was doing. So our micronized biochar does not actually destroy the porosity of it, which the stuff I've already sent you, I did destroy the porosity of it. So we're down to 3 mics is our size. So it's like a very fine powder, but it hasn't been crushed. So you still have tons and tons of surface area, even though
So you're using like some kind of thin blade or something like that?
yeah, it's like
Cut rather than crush?
it's like a very like it's a triple expeller bladed system. It's actually it's like a patent pending thing, and we got it from another company that is like they're the micronized people, and because they're using our biochar, we kind of got like a swap thing. So this thing, I'm a coffee lover. I had my own coffee towel in Costa Rica. Like I roast my own coffee. I'm very big into like grinding things correctly. This thing is like the most coolest looking triple bladed expeller press thing I've ever seen. But when it's running, you can't really see what it's doing because of all the powder it produces, and you have to cover that so you don't breathe that stuff in. So I was pretty impressed with it, and just feeling it, I was just like, oh, this is so much better than the stuff that I was just doing.
I bet when you add it with water, it interacts very differently.
It acts like an oil. So you really get to see how diamagnetic it is. It's pretty wild. Like the diamagnetic principle of it, you can tell it's like I can see why it's used in weather modification. We're getting way off topic with this, but like I've had these conversations with Jim Lee about this, but like I could see exactly. It's the most diamagnetic thing that we know of. That's part of its efficacy of what it does. But
don't they say that about graphene, Topher?
It is graphene.
Well, no, it's not. Because graphene is only one layer of atom thick.
What I'm saying, like I call I joke around with people.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't think graphene actually exists, so I'm being a little bit glib here, but
and I'm being glib too. Like I call.
But if you really were making it, you could sell it for a higher price.
Well, this is kind of the joke of it. Okay, this is sort of, and we can have some private conversations at the festival. But like the real alchemists I know like precious metals aren't rare. Like I know like the superconductor highways of platinum and graphene, like those things are like a real thing, and it's a real thing because those products to the plebes are these like ever elusive things. They're really not. They're not elusive at all. I call my stuff just for shits and giggles, especially when I'm dealing with people that are really scared of graphene. Like biochar, when you look at it, is bulk graphene.
Well, but so is pencil lead.
Well, pencil lead is well, I don't know if that's actually been pyrolyzed.
I don't know either, but if you look at how they actually manufacture graphene, they make it from graphite.
Exactly. Yeah.
And graphite is pencil lead.
I thought pencil lead actually had lead in it.
Originally, but they changed it over at some point.
Oh, that's cool.
Long time ago, yeah.
That makes sense because now that you say that, my sister for a long time, she's actually in Massachusetts. She's up near you a little bit. in her art gallery, she was like one of the top like 10 or 20 graphite artists in the world, and it was pencil. So that makes sense that you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you for elucidating that. I never put that together. Well,
No worries.
the biochar in and of itself, or the activated carbon, like I said, I'm being glib with people when I jab them. I'm like, hey, you want some bulk graphene? Because I'm a particleist like you and Cowan, in the sense of like, how can we even see that small? What are we using to even look at particle sizes that are that big? Like, that's a hell of a claim. So
Yeah, I'll have to share a paper on this with you.
I would love to see. Yes, send it and read it, and let's jabber about it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Awesome, Andy. Well, thank you for coming on. I'm gonna show people some of our websites and do the little marketing thing at the end. And it was great to see you.
Yeah, same here. It was a lot of fun. Not your typical, you know, dull interview.
Never a dull moment.
And the elemental gathering is not going to be your typical, you
No,
know, dry event either in a lecture hall.
that's
So definitely, I hope everyone can make it out.
awesome. Thank you so much, Andy.
All right, my pleasure. Take care, everyone.
Bye. All right, y'all. That was the great Dr. Andy Kaufman. I wanted to show you guys our page here. So go to the Elementals Gathering. We have sold out of our pre-sale tickets, our early bird special, so we're on to the regular. So we're going to have Eileen McCusick. There's My Ugly Mug right there. Owen Benjamin. We're going to have Matt Presti, Steve Young, Alex Zek, Dr. Kaufman, who is here, Amy Hamilton, Dr. Marisol Arce. She was on last week's E.G.G.S podcast, which was awesome. We have Brother Marty Leeds, Emily Moyer, Chris Winters. Then we have Jorge Mesa, Adam Stevens. He's going to be on our E.G.G.S podcast next week. Adam Stevens, Dr. Moshe Daniel Block. And we're going to have Kyle Denton, Tippecanoe Herbs, and then our event MC, Chance Garten. He and I did a great podcast. That's up on YouTube, and I think his Patreon has the whole thing. My Substack has the entire thing also, which is awesome. I always forget to show people my Substack, so let me just go there. Oops. So this is my Substack, which is biocharisma.substack.com. Been really enjoying writing and posting things on here. I love the format of Substack. And I get a lot more interactions there relative to the volume of people, which I like. Like I'm finding a lot of the more scientific stuff that I put on Instagram. I'm at Biocharisma on Instagram and YouTube. I don't know if I post the things at the right or wrong time. I'm not like an internet maven, as you all know. Like, I don't know all the smart ways of doing things, but I have lots of different things, like lots of wonderful action going on the pod. So, in all my different social media. So, for example, like with my playlists here, what I've been doing is I've been updating all of the Biocharisma podcasts, like all the different, people that have interviewed me as of late. That's all here. So yeah, check all this stuff out. This is all pretty much updated. Just this year, it had 37 spots with different people. I'm being interviewed by Bradley Lale tomorrow. But the big thing is I want people to come and interact in person at Owen Benjamin's campsite in Missouri. And we're going to have lots of really good music. I mean, most of these people are musicians. Eileen's a musician. Owen's a musician. Matt Presti's a musician. Dr. Moshe is a musician. Brother Marty Leeds is an axe man. He'll cut it up. Jorge Mesa is an incredible bassist. We're going to have some really good music. My wife will be singing there. Her band will be going off. That's going to be wonderful. Everybody get to hear. Those of you that enjoy like her AI music that she creates and stuff like that, her voice is just as wonderful. She undersells herself all the time to people who make comments, but she's absolutely wonderful. But yeah, come out to this. This is going to be a lot of fun, and it's an inexpensive 3 days. It's in the middle of the country. Hell, Owen drives here from Idaho like twice a year, 3 times a year. So like anybody could drive in to our setting here. It's just a really good time. And for those of you that don't know, I also have a biochar company called Black Gold Biochar. Its spring is like right around the corner here. So come and buy some biochar. The biochar will be wonderful to get as soon as you can, and then you go ahead and inoculate it. So when you're ready to mix it with your planting soil come March, you'll be all ready to go. So that's blackgoldbiochar.com. Check that out. We're doing really well, and I'm really excited about the future of my bulk graphene. So thank you guys. I appreciate your time and attention. I will be looking forward to seeing you guys in person if you can come out to our elementals gathering. It's just this lineup, just to hang with these people. And if you haven't, like, the way I'm kind of modeling this is very much like the Bertaria National Festival, and where it's very family friendly. There's not going to be like anything pervasive. Like people are just going to be able to relax and hang and chill. And usually in these settings, all the secondary and tertiary conversations that you come across are just so full of gravy. It's just a really wonderful time. And that time of year in Missouri is really pretty. It's really pretty. So usually, God willing, knock on wood, we'll have really nice weather that May. So come on out and spread the word. If you guys ever get a chance, if you're a fan of my podcast, I'm the BioCharisma podcast on all the players. Like if you're on Spotify or on Apple Pod, if you could give me a rating, that would be awesome. And share it. That'd be great. And also we have our Telegram chat, which is a lot of fun. I would love for you guys to get on the BioCharisma Telegram chat and have some fun over there. So thank you again for your time and attention, and I'll be seeing you guys soon.